You're listening to the One Step Deeper podcast with your host, Jimmy Moore and Brittany Davis. OneStepDeeperPodcast.com.
It's been 3 years since the release of my last book, but now I have written a brand new book called One Step Deeper Journal, The Foundations, featuring my co-host of my One Step Deeper podcast, Brittany Lee Davis. And this, you guys, is going to be an incredible book for those of you who struggle with mindset, struggle with why you believe things the way you do. If you've gone through any kind of trauma in your life, we got you. It's a 40-day journal. We're going to take you through all of the different topics. Brittany and I actually give you a lot of our own personal story. There will be lots of places to do journal entries where we prod you. This is one of the proudest books I've ever written, and it's available at onestepdeeperjournal.com. Within the next few days, we're expecting it to be available on Amazon, so go check it out. One Step Deeper Journal, The Foundations. All right, what's the shirt say today? Oh,
Purple Rain.
Purple rain, purple rain.
Yep, I was jamming to Prince before to kind of like, get in the mindset. I was like, I gotta wear my shirt if I'm jamming like this.
What's so funny is that song came out before you were born. That was my jam in high school. You cannot take our music, us Gen Xers. We will not allow you to steal our music.
Okay, but like having Gen X parents meant that I listened to Prince on repeat. And so like I knew all the words as a young kid. And so now it's just like nostalgia music for me, even though it wasn't in my generation.
Trust me, I understand. Mama always had me trying to listen to the Beatles, and I always thought they were weird. Okay.
The Beatles.
I get it. Their hit songs are kind of fun, and some of them are good, but come on. Like, nothing beats the 80s music. It was far superior.
I feel bias. I feel like maybe there's some bias in there.
Although now you know me well enough, I love rap music a lot, and you love like death metal a lot. So it's like we have our tastes. Just leave country alone, and I'm good. So.
Yep, and agree there. Yes.
Yes. So today is a special day for several reasons. Number one, it's the very last episode for a little while. We're going to take off the whole month of May. Jimmy's writing a new book all about this ice bath thing that I'm doing. And so I need time away. I'm going to miss you doing this podcast. Obviously, we're best friends. We'll still talk, but I'm going to miss doing this podcast. So this is our final episode, you guys, until we come back in early June. But today we have a special episode because Brittany and I here in episode 65 want to take you behind the scenes of the making of the One Step Deeper Journal Foundation. So this is our long-awaited book. What'd you say?
Mine's backwards on the screen, but
it's all good. So it's the long-awaited release of our book, OneStepDeeperJournal.com. Go check it out, you guys. As of the recording of this, it's on Amazon. It's already there, but we're trying to get the front cover picture on there. This is the little behind the scenes of how books work. The books go up, so it's available to purchase, but it needs the picture, and plus the Kindle version isn't quite there. So I'm waiting until all of that's available. Maybe by the time this airs on Sunday at 4 p.m. on YouTube or Monday on the podcast, it'll be up. But as of right now, it's not up. But we're watching voraciously. I've got my business partner working on that. Hank knows all about our desire to have that. But you could order it if you look up One Step Deeper Journal Foundations on Amazon. It's there right now. It's just not much there. So, but OneStepDeeperJournal.com is the official website. Go check us out. But we wanted to talk all about the book. Why not? We put so much of our heart and soul into this little masterpiece that we wanted to tell you about it here today. So are you excited?
Oh my gosh, I am so ready.
Yes. So let's get this show on the road. OneStepDeeperPodcast.com is the website. Go check us out over there, you guys. That's where you can see all of the past episodes as well as listen to the past episodes right there. Our super fan, Brittany, one of your other best friends, she yesterday, and she's like, Jimmy, it's not on Spotify. And it was like early in the morning. She's one of our first ones to ever listen. And so, Brittany, thank you for that, Brittany Banky. And something happened with the Spotify system. And again, behind the scenes, you're going to learn there's all kinds of things that can go wrong. So
it's absolutely so many things.
Yes. So on Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern time, that's where you can watch this over on YouTube. It debuts there. We also put it up on Instagram and Facebook simultaneously by 4 p.m. I usually try to get it up maybe about 3:30 on those places. So very first is Instagram. So go check that out, you guys. Then on Mondays, it is a traditional podcast. Go listen to the podcast, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Alexa. You can get a little sneak peek of it a few days ahead of time. On Fridays, we do a little 15-minute tidbit from the episode so you can get a taste of what it's like. That's over on my page, Brittany's page. We literally put that one everywhere. YouTube, it's everywhere. Look up OSD Tidbit, and you will find it wherever we post it. And then finally, go leave us a review over at Apple Podcasts, or you can leave us a star rating on Spotify if they assimilate all of our episodes.
Come on, Spotify.
I know, right? This is Brittany's favorite one. You're getting downgraded in Brittany's head if you don't get us on there. So, but let's get into One Step Deeper, Journal of the Foundations. This book really is a reflection of you and me and our friendship. Because when we became friends, officially April of 2019 was when we met. It's been just a little over 3 years now. And we weren't close friends at first. Nobody becomes close immediately. But we did have commonality with first keto and fasting, which was the original thing that made me reach out to you. But then learned about your trauma. You learned about my trauma. And just over time, it just built up. We talked a little bit, and then we talked a little more a bit, and then we talked a lot a bit. And throughout that whole journey, we realized that we both had this great desire to go one step deeper, which is what has bonded us as friends. And so we created this podcast in response to that. And that was great and all. And I love doing this podcast with you. But I remember going to you shortly after the podcast, and I was like, you do know we need to write a book. We need to get our story out there. And I'm like, you've got a phenomenal story of where you went through some stuff and how you've processed things. You talked very openly on this show about it. Same with me. And look, I've never written books outside of the nutritional health realm. And I was just like, but I want to write this because it's what lights my fire. And so tell me your recollections of what you thought when you first heard the concept of let's write a book together.
Oh, goodness. So the idea of writing a book has been long something that I've wanted to do. And I was even telling Jimmy in the early days of writing this that I've attempted to write a book on my own several times. But, you just kind of get in your head and, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. But like when we very first started talking about writing a book, there was a lot of panic. There was a lot of internal panic, a lot of who do you think you are that you are writing a book? And so while I was writing the book, I was also going one step deeper with myself. And so the book in itself and all the concepts that are in it, those were helpful. But like also on the back end of that, as I'm writing this, I'm dealing with all these internal things that were coming up and like things that people had told me in my past. And I was essentially going one step deeper as I was writing the book. And it was such an incredible experience.
Which I think brought more depth to your writing because look, you're my best friend. I'm going to brag on you all the time, but I was being really sincere when I told you how proud I was of your writing ability, your ability to cut through. And guys, if you have never read a book that cut you, welcome. It's about to happen. And when I mean cut, I don't mean hurt. I mean cut you to the point that you go, oh. And Brittany actually made me raise my writing game because I'm not a fluff writer, but I don't always cut when I write. But she made me because she did it. And it's like, I can't have every other day because we alternated days. Brittany did the even days, or odd days. I did the even days. And so she can't on an odd day go, pow. And then Jimmy goes, it's okay. Pow. It's okay. It's okay. No, I had to pow just as hard as you did I don't think I quite got to the Brittany level because there's nobody like Brittany Lee Davis that pals people, but I think I did all right.
Oh yeah, I love all of your entries, and I think you had some big moments where I was just like, ouch. Like there was one in particular, and I wish I could remember the name of it. It'll come up, I'm sure, that I was like, you wrote that for me. I know you did. You thought about me the whole time you wrote that damn thing. I knew you wrote that. That was not nice.
And I said to you, I'm like, oh, if you're feeling convicted, then it was for you. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yes. So we built the book to kind of start slow. We wanted people to take a personal growth journey, but we didn't want them to be overwhelmed right away. So you and I talked about this quite a bit in the development of the book. We wrote the entries first, by the way, you guys. We didn't do all the other stuff around it till the very end, but we wrote the entries first. And I was like, all right, Brittany, first 10, don't be full bore Brittany, because they need to like you first. They need to kind of get to know you, because a lot of people that watch our podcast and listen to our podcast, they know who you are and they know how you can pal. But the average reader that might pick this up and go, ooh, one step deeper, I want to go on a personal growth journey. Wow! And it'd be like, damn, what was that? So I was like, back off a little bit, first 10 entries. And what was funny was you were reading my entries in the first 10 and you're like, Jimmy, I thought you said back down. I'm like, I'm trying to meet you to your back down. That's literally what I was doing. So
yes. Yeah, I remember the very first one. And I don't know, maybe everybody else doesn't struggle with this, but I even remember being in high school and like, what the hell do you write first? What's the first sentence? What's the start? And so I kind of sat on, like, what do I write first? And then bam, somewhere to ground yourself through this entire process. You need to ground yourself in gratitude. And that ended up being day one. And I was like, yeah, that worked so good. And so I'm really proud of how day one turned out. Obviously I love it all, but
yeah, so yeah, we start off the book with a bang. Grounding yourself in gratitude is the one that you did. And so yeah, like you learned a lot about the book writing process. And yeah, I told you, when I start writing, you better hold on for dear life, because Jimmy goes 9,000 miles an hour in book writing. And I quickly caught up to you. And then it was like, all right, so here's the deadline. Okay. And it was just like you were just gasping for air at that point. It was great. I love it. That was in December.
I remember at one time, so I had started like editing each little section, and like I had never edited before in my life, because any version of editing was always, I give my paper to my teacher writes it up with a red pen and hands it back, and that was me editing. That was it. I was told what to edit, but no, you were like, just read it and just, edit. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And then at one point it was like, okay, you have 24 hours to read all. At that point it was like 300 pages, and I'm like, cool, got it. And I literally sat on my couch like till my back was hurting, just like hunched over reading this book and combing through.
You printed it all out on your computer, on your printer, and so you could physically see it. I remember that day, because you're like 11 o'clock or 11 something at night. Okay, I just finished. You typed me. I was asleep, but you said, I just got done. I'm so tired. I'll talk to you in the morning if there's any problems. So,
it was at least like 1 a.m. or something. It was late. It was late, and I was highlighting and marking, and every little picture I would send it to you. It was, wow. It was such a process that I was not prepared for. But at the end, like, I have so much pride that I had so much like hands-on experience in this book, that what people are going to get, what people see, it makes me appreciate every book I've ever read so much more, that the author went through such a process. It wasn't just like, ooh, let me dump out this sentence. It's so much more.
Well, and Jimmy's process is refine. And you got to see that towards the end, because I would read through it, the verse read through of the clean version that we thought was clean. I found 160 errors.
Yeah.
I read in, and it was down to around 75.
Yeah.
I read it again, it was down to a couple dozen. Read it again, it was down to a dozen. Read it one more time, it's down to half a dozen. I was like, okay, I think I got them all.
Yes. Oh man, that was such a process. Like, I'm still like sitting here remembering sitting on my couch. I've still got it in I've kept my printed version. Like, it took me hours to print it out, but I'm just like, this is my first manuscript, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, you should. What you should do with that is put it in like a little box of some sort of presentation and have it up on your wall and put like the title, or even have a copy of the book in there with it, and have it autographed by both of us. And then that becomes that there was my first book and here's the actual manuscript. When you're famous someday as being a writer, we want to see what Brittany Lee Davis's very first manuscript was. And what's funny is, like, people that are famous now, like in Hollywood or whatever, they didn't know they were going to be famous.
Yeah.
So when you see something from their childhood, from their very first time they worked on the play at a school, and it's just like, that's you, it's coming.
I can't sit with that yet.
Well, it's fun to think that way, and fun to think that way.
Yes.
You now have your name, Brittany Lee Davis, which that's another thing. We were going to just say Brittany Davis because that's what we do for this podcast, but you wanted the Lee in there. It's a nice pen name, by the way, for a book, Brittany Lee Davis.
Well, my name on Instagram is becoming .Brittany Lee, and then also Lee means something to me. I'm actually named after one of my grandmothers. Her name is Brenda Lee, and Brenda means a lot to me, and I'm very proud of my middle name. I know there's people out there that's like, my middle name. My man's one, he hates his, but I actually am very proud of my middle name. And so, yes, that and you're right. I was like, Brittany Davis doesn't sound as authory as Brittany Lee Davis.
Yes. Jimmy doesn't do his middle name because he doesn't do his real first name. My name is James William Moore. Ew, no.
That sounds so like doctor, professional, like Jimmy Moore.
And I'm neither.
No. But yeah.
Yes. Plus, I'm an established author at Jimmy Moore, so I would never change that now. So, yes. Well, let's get into the nitty gritty of the book itself. So we already talked about the first 10 entries being kind of a soft kind of entry. And here's a big thing, you guys. So you hear me and Brittany tell parts of our story, participants in our trauma and the things that we went through. You ain't heard the full story till you read the One Step Deeper journal. And the way we created this, I thought, should we put our stories up front? Because this was what you and I talked about. Should we put it up front? Should we put it? And I said, we're going to break it up into 4 different sections of 10. The first 10 being kind of soft, going to get them in there, then a little harder, and then full bore at the last 10 entries. Why don't we do the same thing with our story? Start softly with the story, and then as the book progresses, add a little more of the story, and then both of us shared the worst part of our trauma in that final section. And I thought it turned out well.
I love the way that turned out. And for anybody who gets the book, which you should, and reads it, my story is not in chronological order because the worst happened before. And so my story is kind of like all over the place. I feel like you can follow it the way that it was written, but I love that, section 1, I kind of talk about the trauma that happened with my mom and multiple sclerosis and her diagnosis and what that meant for me. And then part 2 was like talking about my stepmom and my dad and what happened there. And then we go into just my dad, because you guys have listened to the podcast. I have had a whole thing with just my dad. And then the very last part was the story of the stepdad. And just, if you do read that, and I think I gave enough warning as you're starting to read that story that I do tell some very intimate details, not even all the details of that, but it's some tough stuff. And I love the idea that you had to pull them apart, because reading the entirety of my story and then the entirety of Jimmy's story before you even start day 1, it's a lot to take in. And so the way that we did, here's a little bit, here's a little taste, and then just gradually. And so by the time you've been working on yourself through the journal entries, you're also more open to hearing the deeper parts of our story. And so I loved how that worked out.
Yes. And so we break it up. So you see Brittany's story part 2. And so it kind of reads, and both of us are very narrative driven in the way that we write. And so, and you're a great storyteller. yourself, and so you'll see our respective stories, and we tell the story. What's funny is your story had a lot more intricacy, so there are a little bit longer sections with Brittany in that, but I was cool with that. Look, I've been online for over a decade and a half. A lot of people know a lot about me. They don't know a lot about you, Brittany. So I was really happy that we were able to kind of get your story, your name out there a little bit. I think people are gonna, I think people that listen and watch our show, they already know both of our hearts and know us pretty well. But the casual person that doesn't know who you are, they're going to go, whoa, how is that girl at 29 still standing?
Honestly, I did that. As I was writing it, I've gotten not numb, but just so comfortable telling my story that I have to watch other people's reactions. And like, as I'm telling and like being so open, and they're just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that was bad. That happened. Like, I've gotten to that point. But like, when I was writing this, I had a really dark time. I wrote all the entries first, and then I went back into telling the story. And when it was time to write the part about my stepdad, like, I hit dark, because in order to write the story, you have to relive it. You have to go back to it. And so, and by the way, I unloaded that story, and the story that Jimmy originally got to read. Honestly, Jimmy, I'm sorry you had to read that. But obviously all that, the really just getting it out was edited. It's still the story, but like all the ugly, nasty.
Well,
I don't.
We have other books we want to write, including the follow-up that will be coming next in this One Step Eternal Trauma. We'll put some of that heavy stuff in there.
Yes. It was heavy as it was, much less like telling every intricate detail. I think when I very first wrote it, it was something like 20 pages so we had to cut that.
And it was very graphic. She's like, is it okay if I say this word? I'm like, you don't really need to say that word, because I think people will extrapolate what happened to you.
Yeah, so it all got edited, but like as I was writing that version, and then it was time to like edit it out, I just read it from a different place than writing it, and I was so broken for myself that, wow, girl, it was like, it's such a bittersweet moment. And maybe you did this too, like you're writing your story that you've told over and over and over again. You've almost gone numb to telling the story, and as you're reading it, you're like, shit, I've been through some stuff.
Well, there were some days that you called me and the heaviness of it weighed on you so much. I remember we would talk through those times. It's like, Brittany, this is who we're trying to reach with this book. This is why this book is needed, because if you're feeling that as an author, if you're feeling that as somebody who has worked on this stuff on a personal growth journey, how about all those people out there who they don't work on themselves and they still feel the heaviness of that on a daily basis? And that encouraged you in the midst of it. I remember like us talking about that yes, you're putting yourself out there to speak on behalf of all those people who don't have the strength or the voice to speak up.
Yeah. And I will say, for the people who haven't, I don't want to say courage, because it doesn't make you weak to not share your story, because sharing your story is very difficult. Even if you're just sharing it with someone that you actually trust. But like Jimmy and I telling our stories, and I'm speaking on your behalf, I hope that when you read our story, that you see that you have permission to tell yours. Yes. And that our stories are tough and they're hard to read and take in, but you have a story too. If you listen to our podcast and you're here on episode 65, you've dealt with trauma on some level. You've dealt with something. And so as you read our stories, and I know you listen to them on the podcast, but when you read them, I want you to have full permission, full whatever. If you don't need our permission, but just like, and also, the more I tell my story and the more Jimmy tells his story, the more freeing it is. The more open I become.
Psst, come here. I got to tell you about this kit. It is a hair mineral analysis kit to determine your deficiencies in key minerals. It'll also show you your toxicity with heavy metals. It'll show hormones, your immune system, your thyroid, your adrenals, and your metabolism, all in one kit. And all you got to do is go to upgradedformulas.com, use the coupon code Jimmy. You'll get 15% off this kit, but they have everything that you need to just basically give them a piece of your hair, and they'll show you how to do that. And then you mail it in, and they'll show you specifically where you have deficiencies. And then go to upgradedformulas.com. They have a full array of nanotechnology that will help you shore up those deficiencies in the minerals. So again, upgradedformulas.com, and check it out. Test, don't guess.
Something that happened, and you'll read more about it, about the stepdad, is I wasn't given the justice that I desired at that time. And so being able to tell my story to the people who said ugly things about me, the people who told lies about me, the people who didn't let me have the justice that I deserved at that time, me being able to tell my story, I was like, this is the justice that I get to give to myself. I have chills. I get to give myself what I wanted as a kid. I didn't get to tell my story in a courtroom. I didn't get to do that. People told ugly lies about me, and I got to get it out. And so I got to tell my story, and it feels so damn good to be able to do that.
And along those lines, I want to hear this from you. I kind of know the answer, but they know you have a book. The key players in this, they know that this book here, and like your dad has seen it. Yeah, it looks like a book. Your stepmom loves it. Kind of read through it and loves it, and so different people, players in the story, and your old stepmom, who you talk about in the book as well, and she was concerned. Anyway, what's been the overall mood of the book? Obviously, it's mixed because some people don't like that you're talking about this kind of stuff, Britt. You're supposed to keep your mouth quiet about some things because the last name is more important than the first name, Brittany. You're not supposed to defile the last name. When, okay, well, that was so long ago, all the things that we've talked about a lot on this show. You don't just get over your trauma. So what's been the mood since you brought this up? I got to hear this.
Yeah. So it's been overwhelming to watch the reactions, but I will say that watching the reactions of the people who are and have made their way into the book, it's given me information that I needed. Their reactions gave me the information that I needed.
Yes.
It's been not easy, but easier to break connections that I thought that I needed in my life based off of their reaction to me writing this.
Yeah.
So I was expecting my dad to just not take it well, like just not.
Yeah.
And instead, my dad has literally been my biggest cheerleader, like literally.
And he's got a whole section about him that doesn't paint him in section 3 in too positive of a light. In this section, I want to focus on the complex story of my tumultuous relationship with my biological father, Michael, for most of my life. After having him sporadically in my lifetime, I lived with him at 16. Things have been strained, to say the least. And then you go on to tell the rest of the story. But it's like he could be reading those words and go, Brittany, why you got to make me look bad like that? But he knows he has a great relationship with you now, so it's wonderful. Meanwhile, you have other relationships in your life with some of the players in your story that you're not as very close with, and so they're going to take offense, which is all the more reason why Brittany's story needed to get out there.
Well, and I won't name names of who exactly, has had certain reactions because I'm not that person, but it was really sad to watch some people freak out that hadn't read it, which, by the way, Dad hasn't read it. He just kept telling me, I trust you. He's like, I'm not gonna read it. I'll buy it, I'll get you to sign it, but I ain't gonna read it. I don't read. That's my dad, which is fine with me. But I had other people just not interested at all, like won't let me speak about it, won't let me talk about it, like no congratulations, you wrote a book, no anything like that. I've had certain family members that lumped me together, that because at one time I identified as Christian, that this book must be written in that tone, and it's not. It's definitely not.
We got a lot of F-bombs in there. Just kind of warn you ahead of time.
There's a whole page that says pretty much nothing but F-bombs, and I wrote it, and it felt great. But yeah, and expressing that to those family members that this is not a book for you to read. I literally have told several family members, this is not a book for you to read. You're not going to like it. You're not going to want to read it. So don't. And it won't hurt my feelings that you don't read it, because I don't want to hear your negative review of my book through your perspective, because it's not for you. And then I've had family members like, oh my gosh, what did you write? I'm so scared. What do you write about me? And I'm like, who do you think I am? I'm like, I'm not trying to like, I drug one person in my book. I drug him through the mud, but he deserves it. And that was my abuser. That was my sexual abuser. I drug him. I told every secret, every story I told a lot of it. I didn't tell every bit of it.
Enough of the story that people will get the gist of it.
Yes. And for the people in my life who know who he is, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry that it's out there. I don't even know if I ever said his name, but people who know me know who it is. No. I didn't.
So Brittany, do you still have that manuscript that you read and all of that? Oh, no way. You got it right there with you. That's funny. Yep, there it is. See, that's going to go into the Smithsonian Institute of how famous you are someday.
But can you imagine all of these pages? I read all of this in less than 24 hours.
Did.
And marked it up. I was trying to see if I can find one of those pages that there was just like, what is happening on this page? There's so many, but oh man, let's see. Oops. Anyway, you see, I highlighted it and marked it up, and yes.
Well, and it was great because you caught different things that way. And this was before Jimmy got his hands on it. I'm like, I want Brittany, I want you to scour it because you need this experience of editing your own manuscript. And you did great. Now, you didn't catch everything. You caught a lot of things, but you didn't catch everything. But then I read it, reread it. So you saw my process. Like, yours was 24 hours. I did a week and a half, 2 weeks, where I literally would read the whole book, go back to the beginning. And I would literally read it out loud at some point just to make sure it read properly. Because sometimes your brain will overlook words as you're editing. But you did very well. You did very, very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, from my perspective of things, I don't really have family to worry about with this, because all the Moore side has kind of cut me off because I'm estranged from my dad, which I've talked about quite a bit on this podcast. And my mom, I mean, she knows her story, and she knows that I'm grappling with a lot of the things that happened to me. And while she didn't have a major impact on my trauma, I was traumatized by things that she did as well. The array of men that she brought home, the way I was, and I even self-incriminated myself with a story I don't think I've told on this podcast before, of something I did when I was 12 that I'm not proud of, but it was me screaming for help, and nobody could see it at the time.
I mean, I did the same thing. Like, I opened up about my struggles with bulimia that started during this process. And so, I didn't just like drag people and talk bad about people and tell them. I didn't do that. And you did the same thing. We got into this is what happened to me, but also a little bit of this is what happened because of, this is how I acted and what I said to myself and how I treated myself and how I presented myself because of what happened to me. And so your story that you're referring to, which kind of shocked me too. I'm like, oh my God, Jimmy, I didn't think that you would do it. But no, same thing with me, just, it was, I'm glad that you shared that trauma isn't just about what other people do to you. It's about what happens to you. It's like what your reaction to that is, and you're screaming out with these behaviors or words or things that you say. It screams out of you.
Look, the mind can only process just so much before it has to have a release of sorts. And so if you're getting overwhelmed with all these things happening to you and you're getting overwhelmed, it's going to manifest as bad behavior of some sort. And it was bad behavior. Let's just put it that way. It was not great. But it also opened the door to, okay, something's wrong. That's all I wanted when I was in the midst of like my childhood was, please just give a crap about me because I'm dying, I'm struggling, and you don't realize what you're doing to me. And this is what we try to do on this show here, but in One Step Deeper Journal of the Foundations, we're trying to get you to go back and say, all right, we see you. We know why you did certain things. We know why you weren't able to handle things. And now we want you to kind of uncouple that. What's that word you like to use? Deconstruct that and back up a little bit and kind of try to put the pieces back together and go, oh, that's why. And so then it starts to make more sense. But in the midst of it, you just need relief. And that relief came in the form of me doing this thing that, alert, I went to jail. Well, I'm going to leave it there because I want them to be intrigued about what did he do?
Exactly. But no, you're bringing up something that I'm sure, and guys, we've already teased book 2. Like book 1 is literally not out, and we're teasing book 2 because book 2 is going to take this and turn it on its head. But like with talking about trauma, that what happens to, we hear it all the time. Oh, this drug is the gateway drug, or this or this or this. No, it's trauma. Trauma is what makes us go in and do these behaviors, or, end up going to jail at 12, or end up self-harming with bulimia, and end up, other people who have been through trauma, maybe they turn to drugs as a way to cope, or maybe they turn to this or this or this, just trying to find a way to cope. Because like you said earlier, like your brain can only handle so much before it has to release it. And so we do these things and find these things to release it. And then like that's within our story and within the book. I hope you guys kind of look deeper and go one step deeper, if you will, of yourself, of what reactions and behaviors have you picked up as coping mechanisms to help you with your own trauma. Like what is there? Because are they serving you? Obviously bulimia wasn't serving me, and it was something that I work on. It's something that I still have to work with today, is that coping mechanism that I turn to that's harmful. I don't think Jimmy's still out there committing crimes to go to jail, but Jimmy has his own ways that he's coped, that he's had to go, oh wow.
We've talked about it. My workaholicism is a result to that.
Yeah, and so as you guys read and in the sections, and just so you know, like there's plenty of room, and mine's backwards, but there's plenty of room. Okay, cool. Where you can write in the in the pages. With that one's a short day, so there's not a whole lot of lines, but like on some of the harder days, you have all kinds of lines to get that out. And these questions that Jimmy and I ask and pose to you, it's not us saying you need to do this. There's none of that. It's all about asking you a question for you to reflect on you.
And this is the uniqueness of our book, guys. This is not a book you'll read in a day. Don't. To read it over 40 days. We want you to go slowly. We want you to marinate on what it is we're teaching you. And we want you to really think through your answers to these questions. We have probing questions by design to get you to go one step deeper. And so by the end of the 40 days, this book is not something that you then pass on to someone else and say, here, read this. No, because it's going to have all your intimate thoughts in there. And you might think it's a devious way to get you to buy more of our book, but I want you to do something. I thought of this the other day, Brittany. I haven't even told you this. When you start this book, I want you to open it up and I want you to put the date that you started it. Because what's going to happen is, let's say you start it, May 10th. Okay. So you start at May 10th, and then 40 days later in mid-June, you're done. Go back, reread kind of some of the things you said and what you wrote, maybe add a few more thoughts, and which, by the way, at the very end, we got all kind of section for even more thoughts at the very end. Go one final step deeper. And so then this is my thought that I haven't shared with Brittany yet. 6 months down the road, get it again, do it again, put the date in there again, and watch how what you write changes if you're taking to heart what we're doing here.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I've even like, obviously I haven't gone through this myself other than actually writing it, but I do plan on going through this myself. But I have other journals that I happened upon the other day, and I was looking through them, and it was like oh gosh, wow, 2 years ago, this is the place I was in. And 6 months ago, this is the place I was in. And it gives you almost a, wow, look how much growth I've done, because in the day to day, you don't see it. It's in those moments where you have a chance to react or do this thing or cope or whatever, that you don't choose to do that you're like, wow, that's awesome. So I love your idea of doing it 6 months later, doing it again, and just like watching the growth happen, because after the first time around, you should have the foundation laid of all of these concepts, and then you'll also see, this is the process that I have done that has got me to where I am. I think about a concept and then I ask myself questions. It's literally that simple. Like, and I'm looking at anger is not emotion, it's a reaction. I've talked about this one so many times. This is my own kind of concept. And one of the questions, like the very first question is, have there been any recent situations where you've experienced a reaction of anger? Share the details of what happened. I didn't tell you to do anything. I didn't say, well, you're bad if you do. I didn't do any of that. It just gave you this moment of like, have I reacted in anger? Hey, what were the details of that? And then you go a little bit more. What emotions were the primary source of this anger? So it's making you dig a little deeper of, hey, anger is a reaction. What emotions were underneath that anger? And it makes you go a little bit deeper. And then at the end, are you feeling vulnerable thinking about these underlying primary emotions? What are you going to do to start feeling these emotions next time you get angry? And so again, it's making you dig deeper. And now that you will do this 40 days in a row, it just becomes habit of anytime something comes up, you're then observant, or my favorite new word, observative, observant, that you just ask yourself these questions and you're going deeper naturally without it being some pages in a book that Jimmy and I are saying. You're getting to do it on your own. These questions are just coming up naturally.
Have you experienced the dreaded keto flu? Did you know that most of these symptoms are actually due to your body dumping excess electrolytes? This is where Element comes in. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt with no sugar. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited to folks following a keto, low-carb, or paleo diet. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, with none of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. Everyone needs electrolytes, especially those on low-carb diets, or if you practice intermittent or extended fasting, if you're physically active, or sweat a lot. Add Element today and see how much better you feel and perform. Use the URL drinklmnt.com/Jimmy.
Yes, exactly. And we tried to form the book so that it's kind of a cool way. You've got the title and who did this entry. Then we put like a famous person, a quote that goes along with what we wrote. And then, at the end of each of those sections, you get the going one step deeper, and you get lots of ability to write all kinds of answers in there. I think that is the gold mine of any journal, but especially this journal, because we're not preaching to you. The whole purpose of going on a personal growth journey is not to parrot what someone else has said or done or what you should believe, all these things. It's for you to figure out, what do I think? What do I feel? What do I believe? Where do I want to go from here to grow to the level that I want to be? And you can't do that because of Brittany Lee Davis or Jimmy Moore. You can only do it because of you. And so we've designed this journal. Yes, we wrote it. Yes, we're very proud of it. But we want to be very proud of your imprint on it. At the end of it, by the time you fill in all of the pages with all those lines on it, by the time you fill all that in, this is not going to be Jimmy Moore and Brittany Lee Davis anymore. It's going to be us and you.
Oh my gosh. Why did not see that till you said that? I'm like, this is your chance to tell your story. This is your chance to write with us, not just Jimmy and I writing. Like, you get the chance. There are so many lines in this page. You get that. You're writing your own.
I just thought of something, Brittany. So in the book, we have that going one final step deeper.
Yes.
God, you have a trauma story. Write out your story. Say all the things that you weren't allowed to say because you weren't allowed to take the stand to go against your sexual abuser at 15 years old. Tell your story. No, it's not getting out there for the whole world to read, but you'll know. You'll get it out. You'll have that release. Because, Brittany, you can attest to this. You did that 20 pages, and yes, I saw every bit of the raw. I was trying to like process it and go, okay, where do we? Oh, wow. I already loved you to death before then, but I was like, damn, girl, wow. And so I think that's a powerful way to use those last pages. Write out your trauma story and say the things you wanted to say that you've never been allowed to say. Get it out. Speak your truth. Feel your feels in the moment. And yes, you're going to be emotional while you're writing that story. Yes, you're just not going to feel great telling it. But I tell you, when you get it out and it's on paper, you're going to feel better.
And one more thing on that note, I've passed books on in my life. I've read books. I'm like, this changed my life. I'm going to pass it on to you so you can read it. This isn't a book for that. This isn't a pass it on book. This is a book that you should carry with you like it's a journal, like it's a diary, because if you have it in your head, well, I'm going to pass this on to so-and-so, you're not going to put what you actually feel. You're not going to do that. This book is for you. When you buy it, it is yours. It is your baby. You hold it with you. Like, I've been sleeping with it at nighttime. Like, this is mine, and it means something. And you know what? I don't want you to burn it, but like, if it's therapeutic for you to write in this and then release it, do that. There's actually books out there where you can do that now, but
they self-ignite.
No, like I think they're called, like, it's like a burn book. Like, you write on the page and then you burn the page after, or it's like a whole section of things. Have you seen those? I guess not.
I have never heard of that. Well, the first thing I thought of was you press a button on the side and
I want one of those.
Yeah, we might sell a few of those. I can think of some books I'd like to do that with. Anyway, that's another story for another day. No, I love this. I love the idea that this is yours. And then look, if you think it's powerful, it's a great gift to give to someone else. Hey, look, I listen to these two wonderful people on their podcast. They wrote a book and it's helped me so much. Here is one for you. And if I can help you as you're going through this, let me know. I can just see little one step deeper evangelists out there, so to speak, handing out our book to different ones. Not that kind of evangelist, but you know what I mean? They're like, I want to see people grow, because you and I lament that we don't find other people like each other.
Yeah.
You and I lament it. I'm talking to a girl now that she's showing me signs that she's done that kind of work. And it's cool when you find that. And I've got other friends, unlike Brittany, because Brittany goes way, 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 way deep. But I have other friends that will go pseudo deep with me, and it's great. But you have to start somewhere, and this is as good a place to start as any. I'm very biased, but it's true.
Yeah. Going deep, but going one step deeper, it's kind of what I've done. It's kind of who I am. Recently had a friend come to me and say that their partner was like, I actually had a conversation with Brittany, and I never really had a conversation like that before, and it's odd. People do that, and I was like shook at them. I'm like, wait a minute, people don't do that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, people don't do that. But it's just who I am. This stuff that's in this journal, it's literally just, it's who I am, and it's who I think, biasly, I think everybody should be this way, where you're just open and honest and pouring it all out. You don't have to tell the ugly details. You don't have to tell that. You can save that for yourself, because there are parts of our story that is just for us. But I'm so excited for everybody to get a hold of this. And like you said, that moment where like people are passing the book around, I know like I've read books and posted about it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, people are going to post my book in their stories. And oh my gosh, I still have those moments because I am a human.
Yes, please do a thrill for Brittany, because Jimmy has experienced it for many years with all the books that I've written. But if you read our book and it's changed you and you want to post something on your story or in a post, tag us, tag both of us. She's becoming Brittany Lee over on Instagram, and I'm of course Living Low Carb Man there as well. Tag us. We want to see that you're getting the book. Take a selfie with the book. We'd love to see that. I know Brittany Banky's going to do this. I'm putting the idea out there. She's like, that's a good idea. I'm going to tag my best friend and my best friend's friend, and she and I are good friends as well. We talk all the time too. So yeah, please do that, you guys. We would love to see. But I want to talk about one more thing before we get out of here. You got the bug now. So when you were writing this book, you were just like, Jimmy, I don't know what I'm doing. You had to take a lot of breaks because this is like too much. And I'm like, take some time off. That's why I had you start as early as you did, because I'm like, she's going to need breaks. It's going to be overwhelming. I already knew what was coming for you because I'd been down that path before. So now you got a book under your belt. You're holding your baby. You probably slept with this thing a few times. Wild Man's getting jealous. And so now you and I do have a bug to write another book. And we teased it earlier. One Step Deeper Journal for Trauma is the one we're working on next. And it's going to be a lot more intense for both of us. And we talked obviously about trauma in this first one, but not full bore like we're about to in the new one. And we're already kind of talking about the concepts. And you were like, day one, I've got this idea. I'm like, so do I. Let's see if we're on the same page. And you said one word, and I said, yes. And it was like, I love that we're, as co-authors, this is great. And it helps we're best friends and we're co-hosts on a podcast. But we are in such cahoots with the messaging that, guys, I can't wait to start working on that book as well. So when you're done with the Foundations book, and maybe you do it a second time, we'll be coming out with the trauma one. We're hoping later this year, maybe early next year for release. But look out, because if you've been through trauma, and obviously if you watch our podcast, listen to our podcast, you probably have, then the Foundations will seem like kiddie play compared to what you're going to get in the trauma book.
Yeah. Like I'm already like, it's crazy because this one is writing itself. Like it just, ideas are just poured out of me already. Like this one, I probably would like write like Jimmy on this one. It's just kind of pouring out. But yeah, I'm ready for this one. I want people to get this one, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, this one over here. This is my ADHD brain. I can't stay focused on one thing for too long. I gotta hop.
Well, I have 10 books now, and I'm working on number 11 in May. And so I want them to get all of my books. So you don't have to get one or the other, get them all. So.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I can see me definitely on the same timeline as you, like 10 years from now, to be like, I've written 10 books. I have, because I have the book. Yes.
So guys, here in episode 65, you had a little bit of a behind the scenes of the making of this book. The One Step Deeper Journal of the Foundations. Again, go to onestepdeeperjournal.com and you can see the book there and all the things about it. Or you can just go right over to Amazon, type in One Step Deeper Journal, type in Brittany Lee Davis. You're the only Brittany Lee Davis author on Amazon. And so you have a book on there, my dear. If you type in Jimmy Moore, you'll find Keto Clarity and Cholesterol Clarity and Complete Guide to Fasting. You'll have to scroll a little bit to find One Step Deeper Journal. But yes, go check it out, you guys. We are very, very proud of this project, and we're glad it's finally here. Our original goal was like maybe February to have it out, but then we ran into some glitches, and it's just part of the biz. I had to walk this little lady off the ledge a few times. I'm like, it's okay, Brittany. This is normal. It's what people do. So take us home, my dear.
All right, guys. For all of your regular podcast listening, if you're listening to us, you can go onestepdeeperpodcast.com. That's the website. You can find all the past episodes there. On YouTube, Sundays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can watch the video format of the podcast. Facebook and Instagram goes up there as well. And also in all those places you can find the tidbit, just a little 15-minute snippet of each episode. And that goes up everywhere. My page, Jimmy's page, becoming.Brittany Lee, living low carb man. I had to slow down. I was going a little fast there.
It's hard to get becoming.Brittany Lee on the screen when I'm putting the little things down there.
My name is so long. Oh, but we are an audio podcast. Obviously, you can listen to us in all the places if Spotify will get with it. Apple, ALEXA, Spotify, Stitcher. Messed that order up. My bad, Jimmy. But yes, and that always comes out on Mondays unless Spotify decides to not do that.
Are you done?
I'm done. That was annoying.
Because there's one more thing. Leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts or leave us a star rating on that Spotify, which used to be the top could do no wrong, perfect person in Brittany's life, but now Spotify, you've been put on notice, Spotify. So Brittany's not happy with you.
Yes, exactly.
But Brittany doesn't hold grudges. She's the best friend anybody could ever have, and I say that sincerely. You are literally my best friend, and I'm grateful for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get mental towards the end because we won't be on the air for over a month now. So what are you going to do with yourself?
I'm going to write One Step Deeper Journal for Trauma. That's what I'm going to do.
Yes, you guys. So thank you so much. Thanks for kind of hanging out with our a little less formally this week. We just kind of got a little silly. We're excited about our book. And so we wanted to tell you a little more about that before we went away for a little while. We are going away. Do not look for any new episodes in the month of May. We will be back in the very first Sunday in June. We will come back, which I think is like June 6th or something like that. So it's a little while until we're back, but we appreciate you guys being here. And so until June, we'll see you then.
OneStepDeeperPodcast.com.
It's been 3 years since the release of my last book, but now I have written a brand new book called One Step Deeper Journal, The Foundations, featuring my co-host of my One Step Deeper podcast, Brittany Lee Davis. And this, you guys, is going to be an incredible book for those of you who struggle with mindset, struggle with why you believe things the way you do, if you've gone through any kind of trauma in your life. We got you. It's a 40-day journal. We're going to take you through all of the different topics. Brittany and I actually give you a lot of our own personal story. There will be lots of places to do journal entries where we prod you. This is one of the proudest books I've ever written, and it's available at onestepdeeperjournal.com. Within the next few days, we're expecting it to be available on Amazon, so go check it out. One Step Deeper Journal, The Foundations.